What if tomorrow never comes, and the life you dreamed of slips away while you wait for the perfect moment? Elliot Grayson stood at the edge of his cluttered apartment, staring at a calendar pinned to the wall, its dates blurred by years of neglect. At 42, he was a man of tomorrows, a dreamer who always had a plan but never a present. His story wasn't one of grand tragedy, but of quiet erosion, where opportunities dissolved like sand through fingers too idle to grasp them. For the young, Elliot's life is a mirror, reflecting what happens when "I'll do it tomorrow" becomes a mantra that drowns out ambition, love, and purpose. As a boy, Elliot was bright, the kind of kid teachers call gifted. In high school, he aced exams without trying, his mind a sponge for facts and ideas. College was his next step, a scholarship to a prestigious university waiting. But the summer before, he told himself, "I'll prep for college tomorrow. I deserve a break." Days turned to weeks, then months. He missed orientation, fumbled his enrollment paperwork, and convinced himself a gap year would clarify his path. Tomorrow, he'd figured out. The scholarship expired, and Elliot enrolled in a local community college instead, promising to transfer later. He never did. By his mid-20s, Elliot had a half-finished degree and a job at a coffee shop where he'd sketch business ideas on napkins during slow shifts. A tech startup was his big dream, an app to connect freelancers with local gigs. He'd scribble code, snippets, market strategies, and taglines, but when friends urged him to build a prototype, he'd say, "I'll start coding tomorrow. I need more research." The napkins piled up, but the app never materialized. One day, he saw a billboard for a new platform, Workriser, that matched freelancers with jobs, his exact idea launched by someone else. "They got lucky," he muttered, shoving the sting of regret aside. Tomorrow, he'd come up with something better. Relationships fared no better. At 28, Elliot met Clara, a graphic designer with a laugh that lit up rooms. She saw potential in him, urging him to pursue his startup dreams. They'd talk for hours over cheap wine, planning a future where they'd build something together. But when Clara suggested they move in together, Elliot hesitated. "Let's plan it tomorrow," he said, citing his unstable job. Clara waited, then grew tired of waiting. She moved to Seattle for a design job, leaving Elliot a note, "I can't wait for your tomorrows." He meant to call her, to apologize, to chase her. Tomorrow, he thought. By the time he dialed her number, it was disconnected. Years slipped by, each one a mosaic of mischances. At 32, Elliot's old college friend, Mark, offered him a chance to join a startup as a junior developer. The pay was modest, but the equity stake could have been life-changing. "I'll think about it tomorrow," Elliot said, wary of leaving his coffee shop routine. Mark's company went public 3 years later, and Elliot read about the IPO while wiping down counters, his stomach twisting. He could have been a millionaire. Tomorrow, he'd find another opportunity. By 40, Elliot's apartment was a museum of unrealized dreams. A guitar he meant to learn, a stack of books on entrepreneurship he'd read. Tomorrow, a gym membership card still in its envelope. His parents, now elderly, begged him to visit more. "I'll come by tomorrow," he'd say, but work or exhaustion always took precedence. When his father passed away, Elliot stood at the funeral, gutted by the realization he'd never had that last conversation. He planned to ask about his dad's old fishing stories tomorrow. The turning point came on a rainy afternoon in his 42nd year. Elliot sat in his usual booth at the coffee shop. Now a barista trainer, watching younger co-workers hustle with dreams in their eyes. A customer left behind a newspaper, its headline screaming about a local tech firm acquired for billions. The CEO was a former classmate, Sarah, who'd once invited Elliot to join her study group. He declined, saying, "I'll study tomorrow." Sarah hadn't waited. She built, risked, succeeded. Elliot's chest tightened as he calculated the years he'd lost to procrastination. His dreams hadn't faded because of bad luck or circumstance. They dissolved because he'd never acted. That night, Elliot walked home, rain soaking his jacket, and faced his apartment's chaos. He pulled the calendar off the wall, its pages a testament to time squandered. He thought of Clara, now married with kids, according to a mutual friend. He thought of his father's untold stories, the startup that could have been, the degree he never finished. Regret wasn't a sudden stab, but a slow bleed, a weight he'd carried so long he'd forgotten its heft. He sat on the floor, surrounded by napkins scrawled with ideas, and wept, not for what he'd lost, but for what he'd never tried to gain. The next morning, Elliot woke with a flicker of resolve. He was 42, not dead. He signed up for an online coding boot camp, promising himself he'd finish it. He called his mother, arranging a visit for the weekend. He even dusted off his guitar, strumming a clumsy chord. But old habits die hard. A week later, distracted by a new TV series, he skipped a coding lesson, thinking, "I'll catch up tomorrow." The guitar gathered dust again. His mother's visit was postponed. Work got busy, he told her. Tomorrow, always tomorrow. Elliot's story isn't unique. And that's what makes it a warning. For every young person dreaming big, his life whispers. What are you waiting for? The perfect moment doesn't exist. Opportunities don't wait for confidence or clarity. They vanish while you hesitate. Elliot's regret wasn't born of one big failure, but of 1,000 small delays, each tomorrow a brick in the wall between him and the life he wanted. To the youth reading this, look at your own tomorrows. That project you've shelved, that conversation you've avoided, that risk you're too scared to take. What's stopping you? Fear? Doubt? The comfort of routine? Elliot's life shows where those excuses lead, a quiet, aching regret that grows heavier with time. You're not Elliot, not yet. You have today. Start that business, call that friend, study for that exam, tell someone you love them. Act now, because tomorrow might be too late. Elliot's story ends not with a dramatic redemption, but with a question. Will he finally act, or will he keep waiting for tomorrow? And more importantly, what will you do? Your future isn't a distant horizon. It's built today, in the choices you make, the steps you take. Don't let your life become a museum of what could have been. Seize today, because tomorrow is a promise no one can guarantee.